Victor was born in a poor Romani village in a small European country known as Latveria. His parents, Werner and Cynthia von Doom, were humble people, but their bloodline carried a mysterious power. Victor's mother, Cynthia, was a powerful witch, bound to dark forces. When Victor was still a boy, his life was marked by tragedy. Cynthia made a fatal pact with the demon Mephisto, trying to use his power to free her people from the tyranny of Latveria's monarch. But her magic slipped beyond her control. In the end, Cynthia was killed by the king's soldiers, who feared the power she possessed. Soon after, Victor's father, Werner, a doctor and healer, was summoned to save the royal family from illness. But when he failed, because he refused to use a treatment that could have harmed a child of royal blood, he became the target of the monarch's wrath. Forced to flee, Werner died of exhaustion while hiding in the frozen mountains with young Victor. The deaths of his parents burned a void into Victor's soul, a void he tried to fill with knowledge and revenge. Alone, Victor searched through the ruins of his parents' lives. There, among dusty books and ancient artifacts, he found his mother's secrets, volumes of ancient magic, devices that stretched beyond human imagination. His young mind absorbed the mysteries of mysticism and science with unnatural intensity. Very quickly, he realized the truth. His mother's soul had been enslaved by Mephisto in hell, and so Victor made a vow. He would bring his mother back from the afterlife, no matter the cost. With his extraordinary intelligence, he built primitive machines and devices that fascinated his people and terrified them. Before long, he earned a reputation as a child prodigy and an outcast. Victor's talent could not remain unnoticed forever. His creations drew the attention of representatives from State University in New York, who offered him a scholarship. The desire to gain knowledge that could free his mother and avenge his father, was too powerful to refuse. Young von Doom left Latveria behind. Behind him lay the wasteland of his past. Ahead of him, limitless possibility. In New York, Victor met a young and ambitious scientist named Reed Richards. From the very first glance, their fates were bound by hatred. Victor saw Reed as a rival and his own sense of superiority as something destined to be tested. Reed, on the other hand, saw Victor as a disturbing genius, a man whose obsessions could one day bring disaster. One day, Victor built a device meant to contact other dimensions and attempt to save his mother's soul. But in his arrogance, he ignored Reed's warnings about errors in his calculations. The experiment ended in an explosion. It scarred Victor. The wounds were small, but to his vanity, they were catastrophic. His face was marked by scars that, in his mind, were unforgivable. Humiliated and blaming everyone around him except himself, Victor was expelled from the university. To him, this was not punishment for arrogance. It was a conspiracy of fate, a betrayal by the world. Victor fled east. In the harsh mountains of Tibet, he found a monastery of monks and bent them to his will through the sheer force of his intellect and determination. Under his command, blacksmiths and mystics forged something that would become an icon of terror, armor, and an iron mask. A mask cooled in the cold so that, when placed upon his face, it would instantly sear his wounds. The moment he put that mask on, Victor von Doom died, and Dr. Doom was born. Armed not only with knowledge and rage, but with an unbreakable will, Dr. Doom returned to Latveria. In his eyes, the country that had so brutally taken his family from him was now nothing more than a piece on the chessboard of his greater plans. The monarchy, corrupt, hated, and rotting from within, had no idea what fury was coming. Doom did not need vast armies. His science was enough. His machines were enough. His mind was enough. Through a series of precise assassinations, acts of sabotage, and open battles, Victor overthrew the old king. The people of Latveria, those who remembered the injustice and misery, welcomed their new ruler with a mixture of fear and hope. Victor von Doom was not a king. He was an absolute. He renamed the capital Doomstadt, and his castle, raised upon a jagged mountain peak, towered over the land like a heart made of steel. But Doom did not stop at the throne. He rebuilt Latveria in ways the rest of the world could barely imagine. Robots patrolled the streets, merciless, vigilant, incorruptible. Technologies the outside world would consider futuristic became everyday reality under his rule. Victor built not only an army of blood and iron, but also copies of himself, the Doombots, androids designed to look and act exactly like him, ready to imitate their master in every detail. No one, not even his enemies, could ever be certain whether they were truly facing Dr. Doom himself or merely one of his reflections. At the same time, he deepened his studies of magic. His library of spells became the greatest known in the world, surpassing even the collections of mystics like Dr. Strange. Doom came to understand that science and magic were two sides of the same coin, and he intended to master both. With Latveria secured, Doom had no intention of limiting himself to one nation's borders. His goal was domination over the entire globe, not as a simple tyrant, but as a savior. In his eyes, the world was chaos, and he was the only one capable of restoring order. Victor did not merely want to rule humanity. He wanted to prove his own superiority, especially to one man, Reed Richards, the man he still blamed for every humiliation he had ever suffered. And somewhere deep in his heart, he still carried an old burden, the dream of saving his mother's soul from the chains of hell. Doom's first armor, forged by the Tibetan monks, was only the beginning. Victor continued to perfect his equipment. His armor, made of titanium, gave him extraordinary resistance to both physical and magical attacks. Force field generators deflected bullets, blows, and even certain spells. The gauntlets of the armor could unleash devastating blasts of energy, while built-in engines allowed him to fly. Every part of the armor was the work of a genius. Weapons, plating, communicators, defense systems, everything functioned in perfect harmony as an extension of his will. Dr. Doom did not limit himself to his own body or his weapons. He also constructed a time platform, allowing him to travel into the past and the future whenever he chose. He opened gateways to other dimensions, wandered between realities, and studied the structures of universes whose existence even Earth's greatest scientists had never suspected. His laboratories became sanctuaries of wonders and nightmares, places where the laws of nature bent beneath his iron will. In the ocean of betrayal, hatred, and suspicion that surrounded Victor von Doom, one figure shone with a steady light of loyalty: Boris. Boris was Romany, a friend of Victor's father, and at the moment of Werner von Doom's death, he swore that he would care for the boy. For his entire life, Boris kept that promise with humility, devotion, and a quiet love that Doom never fully returned, but deeply valued. Boris became the keeper of the ruler of Latveria's secrets, his advisor, and also a reminder of lost innocence. In a world where every other human being was, to Victor, either a potential enemy or a pawn, Boris was something more, an echo of the old world that Victor had lost forever. Christoph Bernard also entered Doom's life, an orphan who lost his mother in a tragic accident right before Doom's eyes. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the last trace of mercy hidden inside that armored soul. Whatever the reason, Doom took the boy into his castle and declared him his heir. Christoph was subjected to intense training: science, tactics, magic, politics. Doom wanted to implant within him everything he considered the best parts of himself. And then he went even further. In an unprecedented act of technological manipulation, Doom uploaded his own memories and personality into Christoph's mind, creating an almost perfect copy of himself. Before long, Christoph believed that he was the true Dr. Doom, and that his creator was the imposter. A conflict erupted between master and student, one that tore Latveria apart for years. Even after regaining his own identity, Christoph always carried the mark of having been raised by the most powerful tyrant on Earth. And yet Doom, in his own way, loved the boy. After saving Christoph from a frozen state, he allowed him to leave and seek his own path, though Victor's heart would always remain aware of that loss. The most surprising and moving relationship in Victor's life, however, was his connection to Valeria Richards. When Sue Storm, the wife of Reed Richards, Doom's greatest rival, faced dangerous complications during pregnancy, Doom was called upon to help. Knowing that only his technology and knowledge could save the child, Doom agreed. For a price that seemed small, but carried a much deeper meaning. He wanted to name the child. The name he chose was a testament to an old, unfulfilled love. Valeria, the name of a woman he had loved in his youth and lost among destruction. Valeria Richards quickly proved to be a miracle child, brilliant, strong, and pure of spirit. Victor saw in her something he could not find even in Christoph, the possibility of redeeming his own soul. Secretly, he placed a spell upon her, making Valeria his magical familiar, subtly bound to his fate. And when the time came for great changes in reality, when worlds merged and shattered, Doom did something unimaginable. In the new world of Battleworld, built from fragments of lives and dreams, he made Valeria his true daughter, and Sue Richards his queen. Within that false reality, Victor Von Doom tried to create the family that fate had so brutally denied him in his youth. In the heart of Victor Von Doom, Reed Richards, known to the world as Mr. Fantastic, occupies a very special place, a place of resentment, contempt, and obsession. Their history reaches back to their youth, when they met at university as two extraordinary students of science. But what could have become a great friendship between geniuses became the stage for an endless rivalry. Doom could not bear Richard's presence, this man who, in his eyes, was lesser than him, and yet had the audacity to correct him. When Doom constructed a machine to contact other dimensions, it was Richards who noticed the error in his calculations and warned him. Doom, consumed by pride, ignored the warning and paid for it with disfigurement. In his mind, it was not his own arrogance that caused his fall, it was Reed Richards. Over time, their conflicts grew more and more epic in scale, from battles of intellect to brutal combat to the warping of reality itself. Doom did not merely want to defeat Richards. He wanted to prove to the world and to himself that he was better. Reed Richards represented everything Victor hated about the world, a reminder of his own mistakes, the awareness of imperfection, and the thought that even the greatest genius is not all-powerful. Doom's second complicated relationship was with Namor, ruler of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. Their first meeting brought an alliance, two monarchs, two powerful egos, each with his own kingdom, each looking down on the surface world. Together, they joined forces to pursue shared goals. But two great egos cannot coexist peacefully for long. Soon, trust gave way to betrayal. Namor's ambitions could not be subordinated to Doom's vision, and Doom could not tolerate Namor's independence. Their paths split with force, and from allies, they became reluctant rivals, sometimes forced to work together in the face of a greater threat, but always with one hidden hand resting on the sword. Though Doom hated Reed Richards for deeply personal reasons, Tony Stark, Iron Man, awakened a different kind of rivalry in him, a purely technological one. Doom saw Stark as a competitor in the field of advanced technology, armor, and weapons. Their clashes were not as emotionally charged as his battles with Reed. They were more like a game of pride and prestige. In Doom's eyes, Stark was a talented craftsman, but he lacked the transcendent vision, the depth that elevated Victor above ordinary mortals. That is why Doom always treated Iron Man with a certain patronizing disdain, but he never made the mistake of ignoring him completely. Doom was, and remains, a solitary figure. Every great hero, from the Avengers to the X-Men, from Spider-Man to Doctor Strange, has, at some point, had to face the power of Latveria and the genius of its ruler. But for Victor Von Doom, fighting the entire world was not a losing war. It was the natural state of things. In his eyes, the world rejected the salvation he offered and paid the price in chaos, misery, and suffering. Doom did not fight because he wanted war. He fought because he believed that only through the total submission of the world to his will could peace ever truly come. After revealing himself to the world as Dr. Doom, tyrant and visionary, Victor Von Doom began his great march toward world domination. His first steps led him toward the United States, toward the center of global power, and toward the Fantastic Four, whose very existence irritated him like a thorn driven into his heart. Doom had no intention of fighting directly. His genius lived in planning, in schemes balanced on the razor's edge between madness and brilliance. One of his first acts of aggression was inviting Namor, the Submariner, to join him in striking against the Fantastic Four. For a brief moment, their alliance seemed effective, but their personalities soon clashed, and Doom quickly returned to operating alone. In one of his most vile plans, Doom created a machine that allowed him to swap minds with Reed Richards. For a moment, brief but dangerous, Victor lived inside the body of his greatest rival, using Reed's position and technology for his own purposes. But even in that triumph, his arrogance took root. Doom could not hide his personality well enough to fool Reed's friends. In the end, the plan collapsed, and Victor was forced to flee, sinking deeper than ever into the abyss of his own hatred. As Doom expanded his technology, his ambitions grew with it. He began manipulating time on a massive scale, drawing the attention of the Avengers, as well as the mysterious ruler of ancient Egypt, Rama-Tut, who, like Doom, was a traveler through time. Their meeting at the edge of space was more than a clash of power. It was a collision between two different visions of how time and reality should be ruled. Doom survived the encounter, but his obsession with manipulating the universe only became deeper. In one battle, the Thing, a member of the Fantastic Four, crushed Doom's hands, nearly destroying them forever. Victor, unable to work with his own hands, fell into rage and despair. But as always, he transformed pain into strength. Through cybernetics and magic, his hands became even more powerful, and his determination became even more unbreakable. Not long after, Victor Von Doom decided to rise beyond the limits of mortal men. His target became the Silver Surfer, herald of Galactus and bearer of a fragment of the power cosmic. Through a combination of science and black magic, Doom managed to imprison the Surfer and steal his power. For a brief moment, he became almost godlike, wielding energy capable of creating and destroying worlds. But his greed and unrestrained ego made him incapable of holding that power. The Surfer reclaimed his strength, and Doom was reduced once more to the state of a mortal, though now with an even deeper hunger for absolute domination. Learning nothing from his mistakes, Doom once again tried to touch divinity, this time by manipulating the Cosmic Cube, an artifact capable of reshaping reality according to the will of its wielder. He wanted to use it to seize the power of Galactus himself, the devourer of worlds. For a moment, it seemed as if he had succeeded. Doom had almost literally reached for the throne of God. But great power demanded more than even his genius could comprehend. The plan failed. Doom stood on the earth once again, powerful but unfulfilled. After a series of catastrophic wars and conflicts, Dr. Doom was no longer untouchable. Inside his own kingdom, doubts began to take root. Among those who had once worshipped him, voices of resistance began to rise. In this turbulent time, his own son, Christophe Bernard, because of the memories and personality Doom had implanted in him long ago, came to believe that he himself was the true Dr. Doom, and that Victor was the fraud. Christophe raised a rebellion in Latveria. Using the technology and magic Doom himself had given him, he seized control of the country. Victor was exiled, stripped of his throne, his army, his home. For a man who had built his entire identity on being an unquestionable ruler, it was almost a kind of death. For a long time, Victor Von Doom wandered the world like the ghost of his own legend. He took part in the Acts of Vengeance, a desperate alliance of supervillains attempting to break the Avengers. He cooperated, manipulated, betrayed, but it was not the same. Without Latveria, without his throne, without his name carved into the stone of history, Doom was only the shadow of power. But even in his deepest fall, Victor never forgot one goal: saving the soul of his mother. Victor prepared a plan that combined his greatest talents, scientific genius, and mastery of magic. Using both technology and sorcery, he traveled into the infernal dimensions to confront Mephisto himself, the demon who held his mother's soul in captivity. The battle was titanic. Doom had to face not only the power of hell itself, but also his deepest fears. In the end, through suffering and sacrifice, Victor freed the soul of Cynthia Von Doom. But the price was high. Doom nearly lost his own soul. And in his torment, he understood something. Even the greatest power cannot repair everything that has been broken. During one of his later attempts to defeat Reed Richards, Doom and Mr. Fantastic fell into a deadly trap. In a battle so intense it seemed to bend the air itself, both men were torn apart by their own energies, vanishing in an explosion. The world believed them dead. In truth, Doom and Reed had been imprisoned by a powerful being known as Hyperstorm. Only after a long period of suffering did they both return to life. But for Doom, returning was not victory. The world had changed. Latveria was uncertain, and his own vision of the future had crumbled into dust. After the events of Onslaught, Doom found himself in an alternate reality, a new version of Earth, where history had followed a different path. There, Victor once again tried to recreate his life, to build an empire, to become the ruler he had always believed himself destined to be. But it was an illusion. That reality was only temporary, a fragment of a cosmic mirage created by Franklin Richards, the son of Reed. When the illusion collapsed, Doom returned to Earth, weaker, changed, but still driven by the same unbreakable will. After his return, Doom understood that if he was to survive in a new world filled with superheroes, mutants, and gods, he would need absolute mastery not only of science, but of magic as well. Through years of hidden work, experiments, and study, Doom became one of the most powerful sorcerers on Earth, rivaling even Dr. Strange himself. His magic and technology began to merge, creating new weapons, even more destructive and incomprehensible than anything he had built before. The universe was collapsing. Worlds crashed into one another in a series of catastrophic events known as incursions, alternate realities colliding and destroying each other. In the chaos that consumed the multiverse, Victor Von Doom saw not only a threat, he saw an opportunity. Together with Dr. Strange and a race of cosmic beings known as the Molecule Men, Victor developed a plan. He knew he could save fragments of dying realities, and at the same time, shape them according to his own unquestionable will. At the decisive moment, Victor managed to betray and defeat the Beyonders, nearly omnipotent beings who manipulated reality according to their whims. By doing so, he seized their power, a power unlike anything that had ever existed. Victor Von Doom became God. He gathered the surviving fragments of different worlds and forged them into one new existence, a planet called Battleworld. Battleworld was a vast mosaic of alternate realities, different Earths, different histories, different civilizations, all connected into one structure under Doom's absolute rule. Victor sat upon the throne as God Doom, all-powerful, all-seeing, untouchable. He watched over the world from his immense fortress, Doomstadt, and among those closest to him were Sue Richards, whom he made his queen, Valeria Richards, whom he recognized as his own daughter and made the head of his police and intelligence force, the Foundation. In his new world, Reed Richards did not exist. Doom had erased his greatest rival from the structure of reality itself. Battleworld was a paradox, brutal but ordered. A world where every deviation from order was punished instantly, but also a world where humanity, in its broken form, had survived. In Doom's eyes, it was the greatest achievement in history. He had saved humanity with his own hands, even if humanity itself did not know who it owed its life to. But Doom's perfection was an illusion. Valeria, intelligent beyond measure, began to see the cracks in reality. The arrival of survivors from the original universe, including Reed Richards, began the slow and inevitable destruction of Battleworld. In direct confrontation, Reed Richards and Doom were not fighting only for the fate of the world. They were fighting for Victor's soul. Reed, as his eternal opponent, forced Victor to look into his own heart. Doom had to admit that, although he had saved the world, he had not done it out of pure love or altruism. He had done it to prove his superiority. He had done it because he wanted to be worshipped, because he wanted to be irreplaceable. Their final battle was not merely a clash of fists and magic. It was a war of ideas, a war between truth and illusion. when Battleworld collapsed and a new universe was recreated by Reed and his family, Reed performed one final act of mercy upon Victor. He healed his face. For the first time since his youth, Victor Von Doom looked into a mirror and saw not a monster, but a man. In that moment, Victor understood that he had been given a second chance. Left behind on the restored Earth, Victor made a decision no one could have expected. He decided to become a hero. After the fall of Tony Stark, Iron Man, Victor put on a new suit of armor, white, shining, pure, and he took upon himself the role of the new Iron Man. As the infamous Iron Man, Victor began fighting supervillains, protecting the innocent, and repairing the damage he had once caused. But the road to redemption was painful. Enemies who knew Doom as a tyrant did not trust him. Heroes who had fought his ambition again and again looked at him with suspicion, and deep within his soul, Victor had to face his own fear. Could he truly change? Could a man who had once been God become a humble servant of good? Victor Von Doom did not suddenly become a saint. Ego, pride, and a sense of superiority still lived inside his heart. But every action, every battle, every life saved became another step toward a new destiny. Victor Von Doom was no longer searching only for power. He was searching for forgiveness. Victor Von Doom remains one of the most complex characters in Marvel history. A man torn between genius and madness, between love and hatred, between godhood and humanity. From a boy in a Romani village to the god of a world. From tyrant to hero, the story of Victor Von Doom is a parable about how the greatest powers are born from the deepest wounds. And although he may never be fully redeemed, his struggle, more than all his victories and defeats, is what truly makes him great.